I'd like to welcome everyone who's joining us today for the 8th version of the English Department's Research Forum. Our activity, as well as being face-to-face, is also being recorded and will be shared through the official UMCE YouTube channel. Today's event brings together students from the English Department to report research in progress carried out throughout the year by both academics and students. This way, the Research Forum represents a platform for the socialization of studies, as well as an opportunity for students who are not yet doing a thesis seminar, so they can find out about the different lines of research that can be pursued in the department. Muy buenos días, les damos la bienvenida a todos quienes hoy nos acompañan en la 8ª versión del Foro de Investigación del Departamento de Inglés. Nuestra actividad, además de ser presencial, también está siendo grabada y se compartirá a través del canal oficial de YouTube de la UMCE. El evento de hoy congrega a los estudiantes del Departamento de Inglés para dar cuenta y difundir las investigaciones en curso por parte de académicos, seminaristas y memoristas de nuestro departamento a lo largo del presente año, así es como el Foro de Investigación representa una plataforma de difusión de investigación y una instancia para que los estudiantes que aún no realizan seminario de tesis se informen sobre las distintas líneas de investigación a seguir en el departamento. En primer lugar, quiero saludar muy cordialmente al prorector, profesor Roberto Pichihueche Mellado, quien no puede estar con nosotros hoy, pero nos deja un saludo todavía no. También saludamos al decano de la Facultad de Historia, Geografía y Letras de nuestra universidad, doctor Jaime Galgani Muñoz. Saludamos también a la directora del Departamento de Inglés, profesora María Eugenia Hernández. Un saludo también a los estudiantes organizadores de este evento, especialmente a Paola Cárcamo y Daniela Algueta. Sin ellas, esto no sería posible. Además, saludamos especialmente a toda la comunidad, académicos, funcionarios y estudiantes de nuestro departamento. A continuación, dejo el saludo del prorector, profesor Roberto Pichihueche Mellado.
Hello, everybody. My name is Roberto Pichihueche. I'm the Vice President at UMCE and also teach some grammar courses in the English department to students in the 2nd year. On behalf of our President, Dr. Elisa Araya, I send the warmest greetings to the department authorities, professors, and friends, students, and of course, our keynote speaker, Dr. Héctor Ortiz Lira, who honors us with his presence today. While reading the program of the forum, I came to realize, as usual, that the presentations that will be delivered today are in intimate connection with some of the problems that we face every day in the schools of our country. It is, without any doubt, our job to deal with them and try to find a creative, practical, and comprehensive solution that serves the purposes of both researchers and the community in which those problems occur. With this in mind, our university and our department are doing great efforts to give researchers the best conditions to do their job. The 8th version of the Research Forum at the English department is the result of many years of serious critical thinking that we have developed in order to explain the particular dimensions of teaching and learning the beautiful language I'm using now. To conclude, I'd like to wish you good luck today, good fortune today, and I'm sure you will like all the presentations that my colleagues and students have painstakingly prepared for you. Take care.
Le agradecemos al prorector por sus palabras y a continuación dejo con ustedes al decano de la Facultad de Historia, Geografía y Letras de nuestra universidad, doctor Jaime Galgani Muñoz.
Muchas gracias. Mi bienvenida a toda la concurrencia aquí presente, estudiantado, profesorado y especialmente al profesor Héctor Ortiz, que nos acompaña. Debido a que el profesor va a tener poco tiempo, o sea, no poco tiempo, sino tiempo más acotado para su presentación. Yo también voy a ser muy breve en mi saludo. No quiero ahora extenderme mucho en lo importante que es la investigación y tantas cosas que ya sabemos y que para eso estamos hoy día. Pero sí quiero detenerme en una anécdota que tengo yo con el profesor Ortiz, querido profesor de esta universidad, y espero pronunciarla bien, ¿eh? Aunque él es experto, va a hablar de pronunciación en inglés, yo sé que él es experto en pronunciación en español también. Y el caso es que una vez estábamos en el casino, antes de la pandemia, estábamos cuando él todavía era miembro de mérito acá, porque ahora es emérito, entonces, y estábamos almorzando, él no la recordará, por supuesto, pero yo sí lo recuerdo, y él, por alguna razón, unas naranjas, un postre con naranjas, las dejó. Parece que no le gustaba la parte blanca de las naranjas esas. Entonces, bueno, las dejó, pero yo las miraba con aprecio esa. Entonces yo le dije que a mí me gustaría comer ese postre que él dejó. Y lo hice recitándole unos versos de una décima que sale en La vida es sueño, que dice: cuentan de un sabio que un día tan pobre y mísero estaba que solo se sustentaba de unas hojas que comía. ¿Habrá otro entre sí, decía, más pobre y triste que yo? Y cuando el rostro volvió, halló la respuesta viendo a otro sabio cogiendo las hojas que él arrojó. Entonces, claro, el sabio era él, ¿no es cierto? El sabio era yo, que me lamentaba, que se lamentaba de que tenía unas naranjas malas para comer y que las despreciaba, y se encontró que había otro que las apreciaba. Siempre va a haber a alguien que aprecie lo que nosotros dejamos. Y él me dijo: bueno, si usted me lo pide así, por supuesto son para usted, ¿no es cierto? Ahora, yo dije, ¿qué será esto? Bueno, yo escogí esa frase porque a mí me gustaba decir que el profesor era sabio, ¿ya? Incluso una vez dije, estuve hablando con otro Héctor, ¿ya? Entonces, y yo le dije, él es Héctor el joven, dije yo. Ah, dijo, y yo soy Héctor el viejo. No, dije, Héctor el sabio, ¿no es cierto? Y ¿en qué sentido quiero decir esto? Porque creo que el camino recorrido por el profesor Héctor Ortiz, el camino recorrido en la docencia y específicamente en el campo de la investigación, lo transforma para nosotros en un referente importante. Y un referente importante, alguien que nos enseña a amar la perfección de la lengua en su amplitud, digamos, tanto lengua castellana como lengua, pero la lengua como vehículo de comunicación, más específicamente en el ámbito de la pronunciación, de la fonética. Yo sé que nosotros no están de moda tampoco los preciosismos en pronunciación, y hay muchos usos y costumbres, ¿no es cierto? Pero de vez en cuando es bueno que alguien nos recuerde cómo funcionan todos estos mecanismos. Así que, junto con agradecer esta jornada que se ve tan linda con varios estudiantes acá presentes y con miembros del profesorado, yo me alegro mucho de que podamos contar y escuchar nuevamente las palabras del profesor Ortiz. Muchas gracias.
Agradecemos al decano, doctor Jaime Galgani Muñoz, por sus palabras, y finalmente dejo con ustedes a la profesora María Eugenia Hernández, quien presentará a nuestro conferencista invitado, el profesor doctor Héctor Ortiz Lira.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I will be very brief, I promise. I just want to say before we start that we had asked Professor Hector for his bio, and he sent 3 sentences. And I said, no, that's not fair. I mean, you have done so much for this university and so much more that we need more, and we need new generations to learn about the professors that led this department for so many years and who cherish being here, like he's here today at home, right? Okay, Professor Hector Ortiz Lira, he's a teacher of English from Universidad de Chile. He holds a master's degree in phonetics from Leeds University. He obtained his PhD at the University of Manchester. He has a certificate of proficiency in the phonetics of English from the International Phonetics Association. He also received the award Premio Dr. Rodolfo Oroz de la Academia Chilena de la Lengua in 2005. He has taught English and Spanish phonetics at Universidad Metropolitana de Ciencias de la Educación, nuestro pedagógico, and Universidad de Santiago from 1982 to 2018. He has published books, and some of them include A Course in English Phonetics for Spanish Speakers in 1982, La Fonética en Chile, 2003, and Word Stress and Sentence Accent, 2000. He has been an assistant researcher in 4 Fondesit projects involving Chilean Spanish segments and prosodies. So I am very glad to introduce Professor Hector Ortiz, who's going to share his knowledge and his wisdom with us.
Bueno, feliz de estar acá, absolutamente. Mi casa. Estoy volando en este momento para que no nos interrumpan. Digo, puse modo vuelo. Es un verdadero placer estar aquí con ustedes hoy día. Tal vez debería decir, es un placer estar en casa de vuelta. Porque esta es mi casa también. No solamente es un modo de decir, es un lugar donde yo pasé 36 años de mi vida. Y simplemente no puedo sacarlos de mi mente. Como algunos de ustedes saben, yo vivo a metros de acá, cruzando la puerta de Alemán. Así que cuidado, los estoy vigilando. Thank you very much for inviting me. And of course, to all of you in this lecture hall for coming along. So off we go. That's the title of the presentation. British English Pronunciation, Bringing Things Up to Date in EFL. We are all EFL, except our visitor, but everybody else is. This is a summary of the contents of this presentation. We're going to compare 2 different British accents, RP and GB. RP and GB are 2 different accents. Remember that accent refers to pronunciation exclusively, unlike dialect, which also comprises vocabulary and grammar. So this is only about accents. RP is an accent that became established around the 1800s, more than 200 years ago. And it was the accent spoken by the upper classes in England, to be more precise, the south of England, and to be even more precise, southeast London. It was an accent spoken by the upper classes in England. It was spoken, for example, by the royal family, top-class universities, and so on. In other words, it was spoken by a minority of speakers. It was a prestigious accent. Elite. Accents are always evolving. All accents evolve. Even if we don't notice it, and I'm thinking of Spanish. And so did RP. In the 19th century, RP was the accent spoken at the public schools. But remember that public school means exactly the opposite of what it means, for example, in Spanish, the corresponding translation. A public school is an independent school. They still exist. They're privately owned and very expensive. Let's move on to the 20th century. Important things started happening in England. In 1907, Daniel Jones started teaching English phonetics to foreign students at UCL. UCL stands for University College London, the University of London. This is a poster from that time in which Daniel Jones is offering classes in English phonetics, a course of lectures in the phonetics of English for foreign students. Daniel Jones. And who were these foreign students? Well, the rest of Europe, the non-English speaking speakers who didn't speak English in other countries. And I mean French, Spaniards, Germans. Something more relevant at a national level took place in 1922, the creation of the BBC. And why is this so important in the development of the accent that we call RP? I'm going to show you a little video, it's a clip, in which John Reith speaks to his interviewer about the BBC accent, to be more precise. What was Reith's idea? He was a very clear-sighted man. He wanted to educate the masses, with an accent that would not be laughed at, he says, in any part of the country. And this is an excerpt of a historical document. I'm going to follow instructions. Oh.
There's another thing that I've always personally been very interested in, and that's this. Your BBC men all spoke, and presumably were conditioned to speak, in a sort of educated Southern English voice, which became known as the BBC accent, and was one of the innumerable ways in which the BBC strongly influenced social attitudes. Now, why was it that you wanted them all to speak like that rather than in some rich regional way, like as you do yourself?
Do I speak very definitely Scots?
Oh, very.
What do you call the stuff that comes down that chimney?
Soot.
All right. The Scot and the Northerner would say soot, as broad as that. I think I say something between the two, but keeping the purity of the vowel, or double vowel. Soot. Shoot. Shoot. Soot. Now, how do you pronounce, or how do you think people just in the South talking, in the South, educated people, talking ordinarily and rather carelessly, T-Y-R-E, T-A-R, T-O-W-E-R, all become T-A-H. Let me try it. Tower of London, Tower on the road, Tower of the car. And no R. Now, what I tried to get was a style or quality of English which would not be laughed at in any part of the country. I was just vehemently opposed to what variously has been called the Oxford accent or the Southeastern accent, such as the theatre, the far side. Here's more FAHs, you see, they are disappearing, and the vowel becoming indeterminate.
Yes. Yes.
Theatre, far side.
But the interesting point in terms of social history is that this particular accent, which the BBC produced, somehow identified the BBC with a certain section of society, certain social trends, so that to this day, the BBC is thought of as the organ of the, as it were, genteel and respectable elements in society.
Okay, that's it. Beautiful RP, the type of English that educated people spoke in the 1920s. There's one particular word I'd like to attract your attention to, and this is the way in which Reith, this is not Reith, it's the other guy, pronounces the word variously. He says variously. Okay? There are three very clear differences between the pronunciation of that word then and now. RP became the standard system of British English pronunciation, and it became the correct model of pronunciation for teaching foreign learners. And for decades, beginning around 1910, authors supplied the EFL market with course books and dictionaries, both pronouncing dictionaries, all-purpose dictionaries, readers, phonetic readers, recordings centered on RP. And with the passing of time, social class distinctions became less severe, which was very good news. Education was no longer the privilege of a few, and traditional RP became contaminated with non-RP pronunciations. Well, but this is no surprise. It continues to happen to this day, even if we don't notice it. Several names have been suggested to call this modified type of RP. Near RP, modern RP, and more recently SSBE, Standard Southern British English. Here I will describe the accent called GB. And I quote, a name suggested by Alan Cruttenden, an evolving, and this is very important. He is very aware of the fact that accents are changing all the time. An evolving version of the same accent, RP, under a different name, that includes features of regional and social variation. A quote from Cruttenden, 2014, a classic book. So today, we are going to, oh, yes, I could hear somebody saying, no, oh no, back to the vowel diagrams. Well, I'm sorry. Or as Reith would say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Vowels. Let's begin with vowels, because changes have been produced in terms of vowels more than in terms of consonants. This is interesting. English, different types of Englishes vary in their system of vowels, whereas Spanish varies in the system of consonants. Interesting. We're going to have a look at 3 or 4, the most relevant vowel updates. We talk about updates or updatings. The monophthongs trap, fleece, and diphthongs price, mouth, square, near, cure. These are the new pronunciations. First, let's take a look at the English and Spanish vowel diagrams, and there we are. I would like you to concentrate in that region there. Well, you can't see the difference, but this is the old RP symbol for diphthong air. You say, there's something in the air. There's something in the air. Nowadays, that has been replaced by one pure vowel, a monophthong. There's something in the air. There's something in the air. This is the way younger users of the language are saying. And the other difference is here. This is the old vowel, You could hear it in the clip that we've just watched. A sad man in those days, now it's a sad man, which is good news for all of us Spanish speakers, because it's more similar to nuestro. Okay, and that is the Spanish vowel system shown in this diagram. I'm not going to go into the difficulties that the other sounds produce, but it's enough to take a look at the number of different vowel sounds that occupy the same space, obviously. Whereas in Spanish we use very few distinctive qualities. And this is the first difference, the first contrast I want to make between RP, and the more modern GB, a. So this is the trap vowel, trap, match, cap, mad. You must be mad. In those days, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, this vowel was mad. You must be mad. And the last one is man, very similar to Spanish, a. Another difference is the fleece vowel and the goose vowel. In RP, vowels fleece and goose were absolute pure vowels. No diphthongization of any kind. They were pure vowels, monophthongal qualities. E. So they would say fleece, and goose. Now, in GB, the sound is more fleece, and goose. It's difficult to hear the difference very, very clearly, because these vowels in these contexts are very brief, very short, because of the S at the end in both cases, fleece and goose. But let's take a look at other examples. There. RP, symbol E, GB, symbol A. So fleece and neat. We can notice the difference more clearly in the last three, because these are longer syllables. Need, a person in need, need, instead of need, a pure vowel. Leave, I'm afraid I have to leave. You can hear a slight diphthong there. And what do you mean? Mean, rather than what do you mean. I suppose you hear the difference. And the same goes for goose, group, more clearly noticeable, noticed in two. When I say two, number two, rather than two. And rude, don't be rude, and I'm looking at the moon. Another difference concerns two diphthongs, I and ow, which in our P were very similar, had very similar beginnings. That difference between the two is negligible. So this was I, and ow. What happens now? This is what happens. You say ow for that, ow, and for that one, I, right? I, as in here. Price. So, oops, I'm sorry. Oops, what have I done? There, yes. Press the wrong button. Never press the wrong button, people. It can kill you. So this is price and ripe. The difference is more clear there. So I'm going to say that. Ride. Care for a ride? Eyes. There's something in your eyes. A crime. It's an absolute crime. Instead of crime. There is a little difference. And in the case of the ow in P, ow, well, there's no difference in the symbols, but the quality is different. How, rather than how, something more, starting more in the middle of the vowel space. And found, look at what I've found, and town. Do you live in town? There are more differences, more perceptible differences in the collection of the so-called central or centring diphthongs, the centring diphthongs. Ear, ur in RP. This is what I learned a long time ago. Now, we don't have so much these diphthongal qualities. They are changing into pure vowels. So I'm going to read them first in our P. Here. Near, here, near here. Where is that? Well, near here, etc., etc. Now we say near here. It's near here. Diphthong square in those days, square, there, etc., care, air. Now it's a single vowel, a simple vowel, a monophthong. We say in GB, square. There. Where is so-and-so? It's there. There. Care, treated with care is an open vowel. There's something in the air. And what happens to ur? Okay, this is what happens to ur. Now, it is being replaced by a single vowel, a monophthong, or cure. This is very noticeable. Tour. Are you going on a tour? Somebody told me you were going on a tour. This I find difficult myself. This is a word I can't pronounce like this. I still say tour. I'm going on a tour. But I do say pour poor little child. Poor little child. I'm sure. Are you sure? Sure. I have no problem with that. But I have my reservations with tour, which I just can't say tor. I'm sorry. Oops. Okay, and I think this is the last thing connected with triphthongs. Let's say from the beginning that phonetically speaking, there are no triphthongs in GB. There are no triphthongs. First, they are reduced to diphthongs and then to monophthongs. So in case you're interested, this simplification process is called smoothing. It is clearly explained in phonetics courses. Let's look at a few examples. First, the word fire, but nobody says fire or hour or shower or there, or mower, right? There's a mistake there, there's a mistake. I should have put another word there, I'm sorry for that. Forget about that one. And mower is a good example, mower. Now, how do we pronounce them in a more natural fashion nowadays? Fire, or simply far. Look at the far. This is our. More commonly now, our. This is our family. This is our place. Shower becomes simply shower. I'm going to take a shower. Over there. This is correct because what is wrong is that one in connection with that spelling. But there. So ellos están allí. They're there. You say the same pronunciation twice. They're there. Where are so and so? They're there. And the mer. Over to consonants now. How many different items are we going to go in connection with consonants? First of all, coalescence. Coalescence is a process. It occurs when two consonants combine into a single consonant, sharing characteristics of both. This happens to tia, two consonants becoming only one, ch. But at the same time, sharing characteristics. The result is a mixture of t and y. In what sense? Well, you have the plosive element there, and the e, which is palatal, is reflected there, sh. So Tuesday in RP is now commonly pronounced Tuesday, on Tuesday. And that's a beautiful tune. What a lovely tune rather than tune. And the same goes for what is it? That's all. This application that we normally use, well, at least 3 times a day, YouTube is normally now pronounced in GB YouTube. Yes, YouTube. Be careful, accent on the first syllable. We say, in Spanish, say YouTube, don't we? YouTube. Está en YouTube. Well, it's very different from GB or RP. And one more example is situation, which is no longer situation in GB, now it's situation. What about j? Same thing. During becomes during, education becomes education. Something about these two consonants, TN, DN, DL, DN. These combinations, n, do, and do, have something which we don't have in Spanish. There's a consonant there at the end which becomes syllabic. That is to say, there is a schwa there which has disappeared. A schwa between the two consonants, which is no longer there. And in RP, we used to say certain, a certain smile, eaten, have you eaten, eaten, etc. Now the new pronunciations in GB are eaten and certain, are you certain? A certain, whatever it is. A certain smile, I remember a song. Sudden has become sudden, sudden, and hidden, hidden. Little has become more and more frequently little, little, and bottle instead of bottle, and middle, middle instead of middle, and idle, idle instead of idle. Glottal stop is another interesting new update. I don't know how familiar you are with glottal stops. We have them in Spanish, but we are not aware. And we're not aware because they're just allophones, yes, which we put here and there. So there are two options in English. You can either pronounce the two stops together, the two plosives together, the glottal stop and the oral stop in each case. So I would say stop, stop, stop. I'm not just saying stop, stop. I'm saying stop, stop, stop. And the same goes for number 8, 8, 8, 8, and fetch, fetch, fetch. It's more clear there. Lump, lump, lunch, lunch. Are you going to have lunch? Sink, sink. Fault. It's my fault. Fault, fault. Belch, melts. So this is one of the options. The difference then lies in the fact that very often final per and ter and ker, right, ch as well, are accompanied with a glottal stop. The other possibility is simply pronounce the glottal stop and no oral stop. This is very, very common in GB, and people normally talk about football, football, and let go, let. What is the glottal stop then? It is a stop, a plosive that you articulate at the glottis, vogal folds. Sit there. Why don't you sit there? Sit there. Nutmeg, partner, not me, not ready. There's a phonetician, Jeff Lindsay, who is there on the screen. He has produced the latest book on modern pronunciations, on GB. I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you the book list at the end. And I want you to listen to him.
Many of you have asked me to compare King Charles's speech with the speech of his sons, William and Harry. Essentially, this is a comparison between RP, received pronunciation, and its modern equivalent SSB, Standard Southern British, spoken by William and Harry. I wrote an entire book on these differences. You may have wondered why these differences are so much bigger than the differences between King Charles and his late mother. Well, between Charles's childhood and William and Harry's, Britain saw huge social changes. Being upper class changed rapidly from being prestigious to being a symptom of unfair privilege. And many in the upper classes shifted their pronunciation to sound less like posh RP. even the Queen shifted her vowels a bit between the 1950s and the 1980s. For example, the vowel in the word price. King Charles has the RP vowel beginning I, whereas William and Harry have the SSB vowel beginning I.
Time.
The vowel in the word dress was made with a closer mouth position in RP. In SSB, it's more open.
Ahead. I haven't yet. Yeah.
And the same is true of the vowel in the word face.
Plays.
Straight away.
Play.
The opposite applies to the vowel in the word choice. King Charles has the more open RP vowel, oi, while Prince Harry has the less open oi of SSB. This means that the start of the word joy sounds like the start of the word job when Charles says it, but like the start of the word jaw when Harry says it.
Times of joy.
The joy on my mother's face.
Joy.
In RP, the vowel in the word square was a diphthong, a changing vowel, air. In SSB, it's a monophthong with a steady, unchanging quality, air. So these two vowels end very differently.
As my air.
Clean our air.
And in RP, the unstressed vowel on the end of words like happy was the lax vowel of it. But in SSB, it's the tense vowel of words like tea.
Deeply.
Gravity.
Our capacity for empathy.
That's it. We're not going to watch...
Many of you have asked...
No, we're not going to watch number 2. We don't have time. I know it's about time to finish. You haven't shown me your... Yeah. Think about questions. In the meantime, I would like you to look at the following. No, not you. Not you again. Yes, this is it. Oops. No. Yes. This is a little, it's not a poem, a little passage, a little piece of work, which is almost a piece of artwork, very well constructed. This was taken from something longer, but I'm going to go in pieces. I'm going to divide it into 3. I've been saying I'm gonna several times today. Is that possible in GB? And the answer is absolutely yes. I'm going to include the types of modern pronunciations that I have incorporated into my English. But as it happens in most cases, it's difficult to change your pronunciation. I've adopted a few modern pronunciations, but not all of them, simply because I can't. It's not me speaking. Remember that pronouncing reflects very much your inner self. I'm going to divide this into 3 then. This sentence has 5 words. Here are 5 more words. 5-word sentences are fine, but several together become monotonous. Listen to what is happening. The writing is getting boring. The sound of it drones. It's like a stuck record. The ear demands some variety. All these sentences contain 5 words. Now listen. I vary the sentence length and I create music. Music. The writing sings. It has a pleasant rhythm, a lilt, a harmony. I use short sentences and I use sentences of medium length. And sometimes when I'm certain the reader is rested, yes, And sometimes, where are we? Yes, I know where I should be. And sometimes, right? Yes. And sometimes, when I'm certain the reader is rested, I will engage him with a sentence of considerable length, a sentence that burns into energy and builds with all the impetus of a crescendo, the roll of the drums, the crash of the cymbals, sounds that say, listen to this, it's important. There we have all kinds of lengths, sentence lengths. And the end. So write with a combination of short, medium, and long sentences. Create a sound that pleases the reader's ear. Don't just write words, write music. Beautiful, I find this. It was taken from, yeah, there it is. Oops. Roy Peter Clark, American poet. Right, okay, I think the time has come to put an end to this. Yeah, a short bibliography. These are the latest productions, the latest books in phonetics. There's Carley, Collins, Cruttenden, which is considered a sort of Bible, yes, a classic production. And the latest, which I mentioned, Lindsay, Jeff Lindsay, the man in the videos. English After RP, beautiful title for what is happening now. Standard British pronunciation today. He doesn't use the word GB. He says S. Well, he calls it SSBE, Standard Southern British English. And there are other details. Any questions? Feel free. Yes. Could you raise your voice a little?
Can you show us the quote of Roy Peter Clark again, please? The quote of Roy Peter Clark. The quote of Roy Peter Clark.
Ah.
Is it better?
Yes.
That one, yeah. No, the other one. When he says that we need to write music. Yeah, thank you.
I mean, you'll have access to this, I understand, to the whole thing, very soon, I understand. You will share it with us? Well, I understand it's going to be on the YouTube channel.
YouTube. Did I say it right?
Sorry? It's just because of copyright. Because of copyright, yes. Yes, you can't copy this. Yes, any other questions? Any more questions? Yes? Could you...
What's your opinion of the changes? What's your personal opinion of the changes?
What's my opinion of the changes? Well, can you ask the question again into the microphone?
All right, sorry. Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to know your own personal opinion on the changes from RP to GB.
If you want to say, if you want to mean, do I agree with the changes? Is that it?
No, what's your opinion?
What's my opinion?
No.
Well, exactly. I don't have any opinions because these are these things happen normally all the time to every language. Maybe if you think of Spanish, Chilean Spanish, we don't notice it, but there are changes being produced. They're inevitable. And you have to follow the trends. That's all I can say. There's nothing you can do about it. Yes? This different pronunciations reflect different types of life, different types of communicating, different types of saying things in various styles. There's nothing you can do about it. Anything else? Mm-hmm.
Here.
There's a question there first.
Hello, sorry.
Hi, yeah.
How do you think these kind of changes can affect the way we will teach in the Chilean classroom?
Yes, that's a good question. How is it going to affect? I think I've written one or two things here in that respect. Yeah, I thought... listen to what I've written. We have discussed various updates and modifications. Unfortunately, there's clearly a need for audio and practice material to support these new trends that would make it possible for foreign learners like all of us to check your answers, my answers, our answers, and become fully acquainted with the current model, GB. This is what happens, what is happening now. You can't check these pronunciations very easily, except for the dictionary which Lindsay wrote, and the item is there at the end. The last of the 4 items is the dictionary I was telling you about. Here you can find the answers to all these new pronunciations. The only problem with Lindsay is that he uses a different type of notation. But if you read the instructions, you'll see what they stand for, these symbols stand for. I would suggest you attentively observe these new reductions, auditorily. Observe them, listen to them, and only then you'll be in a position to understand the contexts in which they appear. You listen to something and you say, what is that? Ah, yes. And then you say, and the speaker is producing this pronunciation in this and that context. Then, and only then, you can attempt to incorporate these pronunciations into your own normal, everyday speech. I think this should be your position. Listen for new things. You should be listening to English all the time, every day of your life. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say, I think. And there was another question there.
These changes, we cannot stop them, but how hard has it been to adapt to these changes?
I think this is very personal. If you have a good ear, and you have the time, and you really want to incorporate these changes, then things are going to be easier. I know it's more difficult for other people. It depends on your capacity to hear and distinguish between differences. Differences in sound are very often difficult to identify. But as somebody put it once, practice makes you perfect. Practice, practice, practice. Hearing practice, speaking practice. All right?
De esta forma, entonces, finalizamos la actividad de apertura del 8º Foro de Investigación. Agradecemos la participación del profesor Dr. Héctor Ortiz Lira.